All right, good morning. This is the Planning, Housing, and Economic Development Committee, and we're taking up two issues today. First is a proposed regulation on pricing standards for our moderately priced dwelling unit program. And we have a presentation from Department of Housing and Community Affairs, but I'll kick it first to our council staff to tee us up.
Good morning. The proposed regulation, Executive Regulation 21-22, before you governs the pricing standards for MPDU for the MPDU units. They affect primarily the for sale units, but there's some impact on the rental units as well. The rental units are not, the pricing for rental units is not impacted. It's merely the standards for what goes into an MPDU is impacted. The regulation isn't particularly controversial from staff's opinion, but it is a little bit more than technical. Hence, we're having this review. I'll just highlight one key change under the proposed regulation is that going forward, the price adjustments for MPDUs will become automatic under the proposed regulation. So every February, there will be an inflation adjustment based on the previous 5 years that will, going forward, will automatically adjust the pricing. This does take away the Method 1 council review process, so there is that issue if council is okay with that. But on the other hand, it does create more certainty for the development community in knowing what every year the pricing will be. So that's beyond that. I will turn it over to our DHCA colleagues to go through the presentation, and they can go into more specifics.
Okay, so it would take away the level 1 just for the pricing, but this proposed regulation has a lot of issues that are also being addressed, and that would remain, right?
Correct. Yes.
So it doesn't mean that there wouldn't be additional updates. It's just the pricing issue.
Just the pricing, correct.
Okay, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Asim Nigam, Director, DHCA. Today we're going to present you an amendment to the regulation which will change how we calculate the price for the MPDUs, the sales price for the MPDUs. Going back to 1990, since 1990 we never had a thorough review of our pricing standards. So from time to time, every 4 to 5 years, DSCA did adjust the price based on the CPI index. So if you remember last fall, we came before you, we did adjust the price after 2015 by another 6% or so. But we also told the committee that our plan is to take a thorough look at our pricing standards. So as a result of that conversation, we formed a working group which was comprised of DSCA staff, council staff, MBIA folks, our non-profit, affordable, housing, homeownership developers, HOC commissioners, and they met over a period of 5 to 6 months during the past several months. And together we came to a consensus and we came up with some reasonable standards which we can all live with. And that's something which we'll present to you this morning shortly. As you will go through the presentation, you will see that we have made our process simpler, easy to understand, and more efficient. And one of the things that you will see is, in our calculation, there are like 3 pages of worksheet. We have brought it down to basically 1 page. We have made it, easier to understand. So with that, I'm going to ask Samar Cross, who's our MPDU's, manager, to do the presentation, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions the committee may have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Summer Cross, DHCA for the record, and maybe we would start. Just to elaborate a little bit more on what Director Nigam mentioned, we had this work group over the course of 6 months. We were able to receive a lot of community comments from both the market rate and nonprofit developers about our current regulations and how to improve them. Boiling it down, they were asked us to consider the changes in the standards since 1990. I mean, that's over 30 years since these regulations had had a deep dive review, and considering all the changes in the world and the codes since then, they'd asked us to look at that some more. They requested some more transparency, consistency, and as Director Nagam mentioned, simplify as much as possible. Over the course of these discussions, the idea came in for that automatic built-in adjustment, which I'll go into a little more detail of how we came to what we came to as a recommendation. And then we were able to have a good dialogue, I feel, with the development community and the nonprofit developers to answer some other questions just related to the MPDU process and regulations. I have another few slides to go into the details of what this recommendation does. I'm going to just give a very high-level overview and happy to answer any questions if you have questions about details. If you would. Before I get into what it does do, I'd like to emphasize what it does not do. It does not change the minimum and maximum sizes of our MPDUs. Each unit type is a different square footage requirement, a minimum and maximum, so we still see those ranges of sizes. We did not address the pricing of high rises, meaning 9 stories and above. We recognize that there is an affordability issue in a lot of our condominium high rises. Because there were so many other things involved in this regulation change, we agreed to just put a pin in that for now, and we will address that separately and come back at another time. We did not change the livability requirements or the bedroom bathroom requirements. We want to make sure that these units are a quality style and layout for our families. So we did not address or change anything to have the ratios of the bedrooms with the right number of bathrooms, or we still have the requirements to have the right sizes to fit, say, living room furniture and dining room furniture and things like that, so that did not change. And one other thing that's not on this slide is, as Naeem mentioned, it does not address rent rates. So the actual rent, monthly rent costs are not being affected at all by this regulation. Okay? So having said that, what it does do, again, there's a lot of various factors at play here and a lot of different changes, but boiling it down to these 5 main points, it updated the standards, added some clarity to our definitions. It did increase costs, but we feel like the way that we increased cost and the way we consolidated some things made the calculation simpler, and then we did add that built-in adjustment. So when I say updated standards, again, looking at things that have changed since the 1990s, we are now going to require that dishwashers be installed. I don't know about you, but I consider that a very important feature in every home. So now it will be a mandated requirement, and that price is then not passed on to the home buyer. We do allow some interior bedrooms if the market rate units have interior bedrooms, and they have to meet building code of light and air, but up until now, we've only required that there just be the ability to have an interior light. We're now going to request that the ceiling lights be installed, so moving in, there will be light in these interior bedrooms. And then sprinklers have been part of the cost that had been passed on to the homeowner. Now it's just a mandated requirement in code, so we're taking that cost out and it's just included as in part of the base price, so there's no additional cost that's passed on to the homeowner. In terms of clarity, there are 3 kind of lump sum definitions within the regulations: lot development, indirect cost, and unusual cost. Throughout our conversation with the development community, it came out that even though these definitions do provide a couple of examples as to what those terms mean, the overall policy of the program wasn't as clear, so we've added a lot of additional language in the regulations for these 3 terms to more or less specify that the cost that can be passed on to the homeowner is costs that are directly related to that unit itself, not development-wide. So trying to add a lot more language in there to clarify that. Okay. And then, yes, the costs have been increased. Again, there are a lot of different line items that go into the total price of an MPDU.
Sorry, so can I just ask, does that mean if you had a 100-unit condo building, you're saying you can't attribute common space costs
Correct.
to the MPDU pricing?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so even though the unit owner will benefit from common space amenities, they won't have to pay for that cost. So
Exactly.
okay.
Exactly. Square footage changes, we did overall, the change has been about a 15% adjustment to the square footage cost, with the exception of high rises, which I mentioned we're not touching. And then garden condos, those are 2 to 4 story multifamily developments. And what we just found was that the current square footage cost was just so out of line with current construction costs for that unit type. It could be because of the additional code requirements that have been added since 1990, that price has been adjusted a little bit more. We have lot development costs that have all been rounded up, various factors, I think something like 16 to 25%. while we did not change the minimum or maximum square footage sizes, what we've done is adjusted what we call the base size. And that's very important for the development community because you can only get 100% of that square footage cost for a base size unit. And we've adjusted that to reflect more of the size units that we're actually seeing and that we want. So they're really bigger units to provide a better product for our purchasers. And then to be more consistent with other communities, we've pulled out a mid-rise. So we're now having a mid-rise condo of 5 to 8 stories. Again, that's more consistent with what we're seeing elsewhere. It's treated a little bit differently than a garden, a little bit differently than a high-rise. So it is its own entity, and we did adjust the prices there. There are a number of additional factors in the regulations that have been there for many, many years now that are just additional amenities that could be added to the unit to increase the livability, the longevity of the people who purchase there. And this is over and above what is minimally required. So if you're providing an additional bath than is minimally required, that price can then be passed on to the homeowner. So we've taken all of those costs and raised those as well. Again, these are more in line with current construction costs. We will allow a cost difference now between tankless water heaters and tank heaters, something we've never had before.
So when you say allow a cost difference?
So if you could provide a water tank heater, the developer would have to show us the difference in price between what it would be to have a water tank and a tankless heater. And then we would allow that difference to be passed on to the homeowner, just to provide the possibility for more efficient tankless water heaters for our MPDU owners. Similarly, we have that cost difference allowance now for between electric and gas prices or gas appliances, and we're taking that allowance out. So if they provide gas appliances, they can't document additional cost burden of providing those appliances. They would just be included as part of the MPDU now.
So that would create potentially an incentive to do electric appliances because you don't have the gas install
Correct.
costs. You're probably providing the electric capacity already, so you're not having to run the gas pipes into the unit.
That's the thought, yes.
Okay.
We're not prohibiting them.
Right.
They could still be there, but there's not the cost benefit of doing that now.
Interesting. Okay. Relates to our electric building code. It's an interesting manifestation of the gas versus electric issue.
We were trying to make it more compliant with the direction the county's going.
Great.
And then there are currently various indirect soft costs that we're trying to combine and consolidate into one lump sum. And if you would just change the slide. So this is an example from our current worksheet at the top. You can see that there are just so many different factors and percentages which are all related to the other percentage. Bottom line equals a little less than 27%. We've just now taken that, consolidated into one lump indirect cost, 30% price, and hopefully that'll allow for more consistency, more clarity, I think, from the outset of what the price would be. Then, as we've all mentioned, there has been a request for built-in adjustments. We came to you last fall with a CPI adjustment that caught up from the previous years. Since these regulations came into effect in 1990, I think there's been 12 price increases, and what happens is they just catch up from the CPI adjustments that have happened since the last. Going forward, we all agreed in the work group that it would provide more consistency of ensuring when the adjustments would be, less staff time to have to go through a whole regulation process to be able to adjust it if we had a built-in allowance. We considered a number of factors. We considered income rates, we considered the consumer price index, and we considered various averaging years, and determined that an average of a 5-year CPI rate is the most consistent, almost predictable, very few peaks or changes because you're averaging over such a long time frame. So what we propose is that every February we would recalculate the past 5-year average and then apply that to all of our pricing. As Councilmember Reamer mentioned, this will not affect the method 1 changes for any of the other text of the requirement. It's really just affecting the price, the monetary values within the regulation.
Thanks. And was this supported? I mean, I'm assuming everything that you're presenting to us was supported through the work group
Absolutely.
process?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The next to the last meeting we presented the direction we were going, got some more feedback, everything was supported. The last meeting we had, we said, okay, these are the regulations and this is it. I actually presented the slide and everybody was in agreement.
Okay. Great.
Okay. So throughout this discussion, I've been saying this has been raised and the price is going higher and higher. We wanted to see how that actually will impact our units. Our most common type of for sale unit is an interior townhome, which is approximately 1,400 square feet. What that means is today, an absolutely no frills, no additional kind of unit would be approximately $165,000. With the proposed increase, we're going up to $189,000. And then next year with the CPI adjustment, again, we got a 5-year average, so I can't quite say what it's going to be, but it would still be in the 2-point-something range, likely. It would raise to $194,542. So a $30,000 increase does seem like a lot. However, if you go to the next page, we have evaluated that in comparison to other jurisdictions and found that Montgomery County, even with the proposal, is still much lower than similar jurisdictions and a bigger unit.
I was going to say, that seems lower than 70% AMI.
It is.
What is it, do you think?
I think it's probably about 48% AMI.
So our for sale townhome entry-level unit is presently affordable almost at 50% AMI.
Correct.
A little below 50% AMI.
Correct. When you add more options, more bells and whistles, so to say, to a unit, it does increase that a little bit more. So the piggyback, the garden condos, those are going to be a little bit higher price, but the no frills bottom line MPDU is definitely affordable to a 50%.
Which is not uncommon, right? I mean, the for sale, I imagine the for sale environment today is more likely, because condo buildings haven't really been common, but for sale communities have been more common. So am I describing that right?
Townhomes are by far our #1 unit type.
So townhomes are, and that's because there is a neighborhood that's getting built or a larger development that's getting built.
Correct.
And so the townhome is a way of providing the MPDU, meeting the MPDU requirement. There's a mix ratio or something that comes into play here, but you could have a new community with homes that are selling for, I suppose the median price for a new single detached is $750,000 in this county or something like that. And you could have a townhome in that same community going on the market today for less than $200,000.
Yes.
Affordable below 50% AMI.
Correct. Yes.
It's not the common perception of, you often hear people describing the MPDU program as ineffective, but this sounds like a very effective way of providing affordable for sale housing to me.
It is as you can see on the screen, just a much lower number than you'll even see in our neighboring communities.
And just to clarify, I mean, we are talking about the garden style, product here, not the high rise. That's a different.
Right. High rise is a very different ballgame.
Correct.
Because it's concrete construction, it's very expensive, and so there's probably going to be higher condo fees typically in a high rise, I believe. There's just a lot of factors that come into play to make that a very, very different cost structure.
Correct.
And also this is for a base unit, so if you attach, more options, then of course the cost will go up, depending upon what the, seller is trying to sell.
But the seller has some limitations on how many options they can add, right? I mean, that's the base unit, but you wouldn't allow the seller, if this was a developer, to turn this into a $450,000 townhome, I would presume, right?
Correct. No, we do have limitations on, of course, the fact that you have a maximum square footage requirement. You know, if you're basing the price primarily on the square footage cost, then that will limit the size, but it also limits the price of the unit. Then we have a restriction on 10% for architectural compatibility, 10% for options, and our staff reviews every single MPDU for sale price to confirm affordability.
Exactly. All right, that's kind of amazing. Comments from my colleagues? All right, questions also.
Thank you. Appreciate this chart's helpful, and thanks for the work and engaging with the broader community to bring together the regulation, proposed regulation. Just, I often think it's important, like when people watch this, they're probably like, what's going on? Just, could you talk about how many MPDUs we have real quick and between the various types and ballpark it?
Yeah.
You know? And, yeah, let's start with that.
Okay, so every year, I'd say on average, we have about 300 new MPDUs come online, and that's probably split half and half sales and half rental. So say out of 150 for sale units every year, I'd say almost 100 of those are probably going to be townhomes.
150 for sale, 100 are townhomes. That means the other 50 are more are single family or condos.
Probably, yeah.
Or-
Piggyback townhomes, which could be condos
Yeah.
or possibly something else, but a very high percentage are going to be townhomes of the for sale.
and then in the high-rise context, that's the
We have not seen a lot of high-rise for sale units in the past few years. It would be rentals at this point.
okay. So that's we're talking about the ownership pricing. 300, 150 being townhomes. Okay, good. Just the context, and that's been pretty stable over the
Yes.
a period of time.
At least the past 10 years, we're doing about 300 units a year.
So obviously we need more.
Oh, absolutely.
And this is helpful because it'll also allow for the people who are producing those to have an updated cost structure, right? So
Correct.
hopefully, the second question I have is, so we've been at the 12.5%, 15%, you know, depending on where you are, number for a while, right? What do you see as the interaction between that and the cost of producing these MPDUs and the acquiring of the land, and you know that where that number is set, that percentage number?
I do see, well, I think.
Well, you finish your thought. I'm not going to let him cut you off.
Yeah.
You finish, and then
So I do see adjusting the price, allowing the development community to be able to absorb the ones that they have and possibly have the allowance for more units within a program, but that cost has to catch up a little bit more like we're proposing here.
Right.
I lost my train of thought, sorry.
So to restate that, and correct me if I'm wrong, this cost update could help us look at maybe increasing the number of production of MPDUs that we're asking for.
It could. It gets it much closer to the cost of the unit, which helps the developer to be able to build more.
Okay. Correct.
No, I was going to say actually the same thing. So since we're doing the catch up here on the sales price, that will allow us, that will provide us the opportunity, you know, going forward, maybe we can have more MPDUs.
Okay. Well, I think we all agree we want that. So, all right. Well, thank you. This is helpful, and I appreciate the presentation. Thank you.
Right, well, I mean, at the proposed sale price, it will still be roughly at about 50% AMI for a base unit townhome. So if you wanted to allow the developer to sell that for a higher price, you would be creating value that you could use to negotiate for additional MPDUs, for example. So you could say 60% is the target price, not 50%. But in exchange for that, we would like X% more units or something like that. It's possible. I'm not saying we should or shouldn't, but okay, Andrew.
Yeah, thanks. First of all, thanks for all the work here. Obviously, figuring out how all of this works and getting everybody to come together to agree on a process that achieves the policy goal is challenging, and a lot of work went into it, so I really appreciate that. I think the regional comparison was really positive. I think we need to talk about that more. I don't think we talk about that enough. I am encouraged. The price point is better than I thought in terms of being below 50% AMI for these particular units. So I think that's real positive, and I think the affordability slide that you have here that shows, what the monthly estimated mortgage payment would be and what that means in terms of AMI is very helpful. I think it's important for us when we talk about MPDUs to understand, this is only one part of the overall housing affordability strategy. We all talk here and have talked repeatedly that we need lots of tools in the toolkit, and largely the MPDU model is not an extraction from a developer. It's a sharing of the cost of a community. So a new community gets built, everybody else pays more in order to have a mixed income community, because that is the type of community that we want and desire. And so, that is largely what this does, and I think it creates mixed income communities that we want. And I think there are more tools that we can use in order to create that. This is just one of many, but it does show that despite the fact that I think a lot of people want each affordability tool to solve every aspect of affordability, which would be an impossible standard, that this is an effective tool, one of many that are needed, but an effective tool to actually address the affordability challenges that we have and provide opportunities for residents who otherwise wouldn't be able to afford to access communities across the county. So thanks for all the work. I think this is really positive. I think we need to continuously do this. I think we wait too long for these updates. I think this is an object lesson in the fact that we can bring people together to actually address some of these challenges, and I think we need to start doing it on a more frequent and regular basis so that there are fewer shocks to the systems. I used to do college savings, and I used to say, if you take a mountain and you spread it out over time, they become speed bumps, and you can just slowly drive right over them. And I think we got to do that more and more. But I think this is a good example of how it can and should be done, and appreciate all the efforts that you've taken to make it happen.
Okay. Any additional comments? No? Great work. Thank you. Appreciate your bringing forward this regulation. It's been a very helpful discussion today. And without objection, we approve the proposed regulation for the council's consideration.
Thank you very much.
Okay. We will move on to our next item, which will be an even briefer consideration, as there's no one to talk with. Okay, this is the third of our series of engagements with the executive branch this past 6 weeks or so to get the executive branch to complete something that has been pending for at least a year and a half now, and it's not yet complete, but we have managed to secure a important step forward in the process, which is for the executive branch to provide comments in this negotiation process, comments in response to the industry's comments about their proposed licensing agreement. So the way the process works, county drafts a licensing agreement, provides to the industry comments, then the county comments back, and then I hope at that point, there's a final negotiation and an agreed license agreement that then the executive recommends to the council, and then the council can approve. So, Christine, anything you can share with us about where we are in the process etc. We're not asking you to have an opinion on the regulations. If you'd like to make any comment on them, of course, that's welcome. Yeah.
Right. Thanks, Chair Reamer. I don't have any substantive comments, just in terms of process. Wanted to note that after Circle 47 in your packet is the most recent update from the executive branch, and unfortunately they weren't able to be here this morning to speak to it, but it does enclose the most recent iteration of the draft licensing agreement that, as you noted, is under negotiations with the industry and already has received public comments. And this has this update, including the current draft of the agreement, is available on the council website as part of the packet, but it was added over the weekend, but just for the public's knowledge that they can access it through this agenda item.
Right. So it's available through the agenda item on the council website, and hopefully the process will continue to move forward and can be brought to a conclusion. And very simple point here. This is so that the county can allow for the replacement of our light poles with brand new light poles that will include an antenna. Other communities across the country view this as an opportunity to upgrade their infrastructure, to gain rental income, to provide even public Wi-Fi. There's all kinds of values that can be achieved through this process. Unfortunately, this county has dragged its feet for years now in moving forward. So hopefully now we can, again, land this thing soon. So, okay, that concludes this item, and I think it will be up to the next council to see this through to the end. I'm not sure that there's any point in having another committee session on it, because now we are waiting for the industry's response, and I don't think that will come in the next week. It could, but I doubt it. So we will look at the executive branch's comments, and if there's something there that we think is worthy of committee discussion, then we could just have a discussion about it. However, we're not ready to do that this morning.
Why don't we just request that it be transmitted to the council when they do get a response? We're in a committee session for that.
Sure. Well, my colleague suggests when the county receives any responses to this draft, that those responses be sent to the county council. So if we'll make that request to the executive branch.
Noted, and we'll make the request.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks everyone. Thank you, Christine.